All right, minions, welcome back. Thanks for joining me on Misery Point Radio again. My name is Mike. I'm your host, of course, and I'm excited for today's episode because we're going to be closing out 2023 in epic fashion, as always, with one final dose of Pacific Northwest metal awesomeness to clear out your ear holes. Consider it like a little, audio enema in case you got all that crazy noise bouncing around in your head. Christmas music that's coming early. I'm talking to you. So please welcome to the show, courtesy of Curtain Call Records, Kyle Willis from Fate Defined out of Spokane, Washington. Brother, welcome to the show. Honored to have you here.
Hey, thanks, Mike. It's great to be here, man.
Yeah. And a quick shout out also to our mutual friend, Mr. Brian Moore, for kind of hooking this up from Curtain Call. So thanks, Brian. You the fucking man.
Are the man.
So we'll talk about the whole Curtain Call thing in a little bit, but because I'm actually just getting to know your band a little bit more in depth than I had previously, let's just kind of talk a little bit about the band and kind of how it got started. And I know you guys are out of Spokane, so just give us the quick rundown on kind of how you guys got together, and we'll go from there.
Hell yeah, it's kind of an interesting story, but the skinny of it is I lived on the East Coast at the start of the pandemic, and moved back home because of some family issues, and I was playing shows and stuff and having a great time out there, and I needed to be in music, and of course the pandemic shut everything down, but I ended up getting online and I got plugged in with my drummer Darren, and we were like pretty similar in taste and everything like that, and we're like, hey, let's start a band, man. And we just kind of went around and naturally found people. We lucked into finding a guitarist. We happened to find across our bassist, and we all had the same goals in mind, the same vision of what we wanted to do. Styles and influences all over the place, but we all had the same vision, and that's what it was all about. So we're like, let's play some heavy music and have fun. And there's been some transitions and stuff, but we're in an excellent spot right now. We've had our two guitarists. We don't really do a rhythm or a lead thing. They both play leads. They both play rhythm. They're both badasses. And they've been in the band for a year now, and we really hit our stride through 23, and 24 is shaping up to be a killer year.
Oh, fuck yeah, it is. And we'll dig into that here in a few minutes. But since we're talking about them, let's just get a quick introduction to the other members of the band who are not with us today. So give those guys a quick shout out here.
Absolutely. So our drummer extraordinaire, Darren Hobble, he's a Montana boy. He came to Spokane to pursue a dream of playing in a band, and he's just a savage. It's so cool to have him, man. Cade Brown is our bassist. And that dude can do pretty much anything. It's really, really a big push for our music because we like having a low end meteor sound, and he's all about that. He's a premier bassist. Dylan Rasco is our guitarist. He was in the band like a month or two before we got our other guitarist, Sam DeMars, but. Both of them are extremely talented. Sam, our guitarist, this is his first band. He's 19 years old, and the dude can absolutely shred. We're extremely fortunate to have both of those dudes. We're all, just brothers, and we just like to rip. We're like, hey, let's see how fast we can play, and then that's just pretty much all it is. I love it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think looking at, just kind of press photos and things like that, you guys really just kind of remind me a little bit of, looking at you, what the scene looked like back in the day. So we did kind of talk a little bit off air when you and I were first getting acquainted about kind of the mix of influences, and you kind of touched it again. So, I listened to your stuff, and I don't know if I'm way off track here, but I definitely get like an old school thrash vibe, but also kind of mixed with like some hardcore. So I get get kind of like this DRI crossover meets prong meets like old Exodus, just kind of all thrown in there. Especially with kind of your really throaty, heavy vocal style that I'm a huge fan of. So yeah, I definitely get just a massive genre cross. And I also noticed that you guys really just kind of refer to yourselves as heavy metal, which I'm an old school guy, so I like that. It kind of helps eliminate a lot of those crazy subgenres that we all are kind of programmed to try to figure out what people are.
Oh, definitely. It's one thing, people have asked us, what genre we classify ourselves as, and we just say metal. We don't really have anything to go off of, man, because we all, like I said, we've all pulled our influences together. Darren is a metalcore guy, right? So he
Yeah.
wants to do the metalcore transitions, the flammy, kicks and stuff, uh, and cymbal play and all the cool stuff. He doesn't want to just play lightning fast. He wants to do some intricate stuff. Our bassist is an old school punk guy, right? And a doom guy. So he wants to be low and fat and heavy, and that's it. And he's not a root note guy. He wants to actually be premiered in the music. And then Sam, he's kind of just a straight death metal guy, right? It's kind of sick. He just wants to play fast, and he wants to do some crazy transitions. And he's not a big guy, but his fingers are able to spread all over the fretboard. It's nuts. And then Dylan, he's like, I don't even know what to classify him as, but he's kind of an all around metal guitarist. So there's like he can play fast and he can do melodies and he can throw harmonies in there and he wants to do intricate stuff. It's really cool. And then I'm an old school thrash guy, old school doom, and that's what I like to be. So we kind of put all of our stuff together into the writing process and come up with whatever the hell we think sounds cool, and that's
Yeah.
really it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so here on the Seattle side of things, we're seeing the metal scene kind of be reinvigorated, and a lot of those elements I'm seeing them kind of pop up again. But I'm really not at all familiar with, say, the Spokane scene. So I was there, a couple years ago at concert, and got a chance to hang out down there, and then we went, of course, to I don't know if you know Frank's Diner, but it's epic place, kind of in a railway car. It's super badass. But what is the scene looking like in Spokane right now?
It's really interesting. There is a massive influx of the I'll say asterisk core type stuff. So the death core, there's like a bunch of slam stuff, which I'm not familiar with, to be honest with you. That's a subgenre. That's wild. Spokane is, I think, best classified as like uh, an underground metal scene. It's whatever the hell bands want to do, and it's a lot of just deathcore, grindcore, heavy blast, and all that stuff. It's the pig squeals and all that jazz. It's brutally heavy. It's pretty cool, man. We have a lot of intricate stuff, and there's also a lot of like just straight rock bands. A lot of our closest friends are just rock, and it's pretty damn cool to be a part of everything because we get the heavy dudes, and then we get the dudes who are just like, we're just gonna play some old school groovy shit,
Yeah.
and we all play the same shows together too, which is wild. So even the fans are into the different kind of genres of rock and roll. It's nuts.
That reminds me, because when I was a performing musician, back in the 90s specifically, the that was kind of how shows were. It wasn't like you went to a metal show or a punk show or a whatever. It was like, hey, there is a show. And
Yeah.
it would be like 10 bands on the bill. It was almost like a little mini festival. Everybody got like a 20-30 minute set. But it would be really cool because you'd have some rock bands, you'd have some metal bands. I
Oh
do
yeah.
remember those shows and being turned on to music that was not something I would have otherwise listened to. And also, having these dudes out there, and I'd be like, man, these guys got some balls coming out playing here, and this is not their crowd, and they're winning them over. And to me, if you win over a crowd that's not yours, you're just a legend. And I absolutely love to see that kind of stuff happen.
Yeah, that's definitely something. There are some straight performers in our scene. We played a show where a dude, the band was actually on tour. They came through Spokane, and the lead singer got on the wobbliest table I've ever seen. Uh, and everyone panicked to grab it and make sure he didn't kill himself. And yeah, he just went as hard as he could for the a small bar, and it was rad. I was like, okay, this guy's getting the fucking crowd going.
Yeah.
It was sick. So there's some cool stuff, but straight performers, they're just people who want to go heavy, headbang, and do the hardcore dancing and whatever it is that they got to do. It's fun.
Yeah. And are there, I mean, the venues on that side for those that aren't familiar geographically, I guess I should specify. So I'm in the Seattle area, which is, on the very west side of the state, and he's over in Spokane, which is on the other side of the state. So we're separated by a few hundred miles, and you're, close to the Idaho border.
Right on it.
So yeah, we have a completely different uh geographical set, a different weather pattern. Everything is just kind of a difference. So here we are, two folks in the same state that definitely have different experience in the same state. So but yeah, what I was getting at was are the clubs opening up for some of the harder music again?
Absolutely. So we had a very significant club that was like a stepping stone for so many bands in the area that shut down during the pandemic, and it sucked for a lot of the younger bands because it was an under 18 club if you wanted to get in. And now we have a couple venues who are really just trying to get shows in all the time. They got open mic nights, they got a bunch of other stuff going, and there's kind of like two primary locations that play. One in Idaho, and then there's like two bars here in town that put on shows. One is over 21. It's difficult for families and stuff to show up, and then the other one is all ages, and that all ages place. Every band goes through there, and they have new ownership. The dude's a badass and gets awesome bands in. And it's very like an eclectic taste, kind of like what you're saying. You're putting on a show, and whatever the hell happens. You'll have hardcore kids, and you'll have like old school people showing up with like spikes coming out of their vests and shit. It's sick.
I love that. I also really love that. That kind of reminds me of a show I was at here recently with, speaking of the old guys with spikes on their jackets. Really kind of cool to see the big, massive, burly 300-pound dude with the spiked battle vest there with his kid, listening
Yeah.
to the same stuff. And I fucking love that because that's just a generational thing for me. But yeah, I definitely, I love to see that. So I'm stoked that, those opportunities are kind of, coming your way, and things are opening back up after the pandemic, of course. So we're back in full swing, and stuff's kind of lining up for tours and things like that. I know you got some stuff we're going to chat about here in a bit. Let's talk then a little bit specifically about kind of your music. So on your website, which is very cool, by the way,
Thank
uh,
you.
you've got basically three singles that have been released to the public. And as I listen to them, the first thing that I wonder is, were these all recorded at the same time?
Two of them were. So the most recent releases, Domination and Your Own Hell, were recorded at the same time. No Hope was actually recorded back in 21 when we
Okay.
first got together. Different guitarist, and very early in our progression as musicians too. So yeah, the last two, Domination and Your Own Hell, were recorded at the same time, same place.
Well, it's funny, and the reason I ask you that is I'm listening and I pick up on a progression, right? Like, No Hope is like a very raw, right? Really in
Oh
your
yeah.
face. As of the three, definitely like more of a punk or a hardcore kind of a back vibe to it. But and then you listen to for instance Domination, and it kind of has a little bit more of a thrash vibe to it, and then Your Own Hell has that really cool clean, and then immediately kicks in to like that thrash kind of a sound as well. So in regards to Your Own Hell specifically, also you guys shot a really sweet video for that. Tell me about that.
Yeah, we really wanted to like take this as serious as we could. So we thought a video would be like the best way to do it, and just show that we're working our asses off and try to sell ourselves. Riker is the guy who shot our video, and he had a cool vision for the song. We sent him the song as soon as we had it, and we recorded it in Idaho, actually, in a warehouse that was 95 degrees.
Oh,
So that was brutal. But yeah, we had a blast with that, and I think it turned out pretty all right.
yeah. It
Try
kind
to
of
look professional.
looks really good. I like the kind of the jamming vibe. I'm a fan of those kinds of videos where you get to kind of see all the members in the bands and you check out their instruments and that badass Sinister Gates Schecter guitar that I'm always been a huge fan of. That's a cool shredder. But yeah, there's just a really really nice production value to it. So I thought that was kind of cool. And was that something you had planned on doing, or did that opportunity just kind of fall into your lap one day and you guys say, let's just do this fucking video?
It was a little bit of both. We definitely wanted to do a video, and I had actually talked to Riker a long time before about shooting a video. And of course, our band caught some speed bumps along the way. We didn't end up going through with it. But for this song in particular, we thought this needs to happen, and it just so happened he was available. So yeah, it really was a little bit of both. We kind of forced it, but it definitely fell into our laps. And as soon as we said, I hit up Riker, and he was like, "Hell yeah, I'm in." And so it was badass.
Yeah, and I mean, what video would be complete without lighting somebody on fire, right? I mean, that's
Right. Yeah.
a very metal thing to do, guys. Just light somebody on fire, preferably a band member. But
Right. Yeah. That was actually our bassist longtime friend. He we none of us had met him prior, but our Cade brought him along. It was like, "Hey, this is my buddy Cameron, and we're gonna have him in the video." And we're like, "Sick!" And then we lit him on fire. So that was the video.
oh yeah, that's great. I really actually do like that particular song. I feel like it's got, of the three that I've heard, I think it showcases the most of your differing vocal styles. It looks like you've kind of taken a little bit more with, I don't want to say experimenting because it doesn't sound experimental, but it's like I think you've really used your voice as a tool quite effectively in that song.
Well, thank you. That actually means a lot. I've heard differing things about my vocal style, and people say that all you can do is the harsh or the raspy stuff. Like, I can kind of hit some notes too in there, man. It's cool. So, but that song, it just kind of felt right, and everything from my writing style was actually based on the pre-chorus. So the pre-chorus was just meant to be clean and soft, but building up, and it turned into this kind of big thing. So I wanted to experiment. Really, is what it came down to. I wanted to throw some stuff out there, and yeah, I think it turned out pretty all right.
Yeah, I think it turned out great. And also for those folks that aren't vocalists, especially pulling that off live is really tricky because going from kind of a harsh voice or a scream to a clean, that's a hard thing for vocalists to do effectively. And so I mean, a lot of times in the studio you've got 50 takes to make it happen, which is great. And and live, how are you comfortable with that yet? Is that something you think you're going to experiment more when you get into more music?
Yeah, the next few songs that we have, I'm doing more experimenting. Yeah, we have a few songs actually in our back pocket, and we've been playing one live for the last 4 shows now, I think. And it's violently heavy and thrashy, and it's stupid.
Island,
And
great
yeah,
phrase.
yeah.
Wow. So violence, yes. Heaviness, yes. Violently heavy, fuck yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I actually I wrote the song kind of on the premise of, well, the differences of our sides of the state. We get wildfires like it's just a regular season, right? Wildfire season is more summer than anything else,
I
and
laugh.
so
Yeah, it's fucking.
uh,
That's rough.
it sucks. Yeah. So I actually wrote a song called "World in Flames," kind of around that premise, and I actually pulled back on my writing. I wanted to keep it short and simple, and let the band kind of take the primacy of everything. Our drummer plays faster than he's ever played before. Our guitars play Faster Than Domination, and both of our guitarists throw down a lead on it. So we really wanted to push ourselves as musicians and show off that, like, hey, everybody in this band is a badass. So it's a headbanger. It is an absolute headbanger.
God, I fucking love that, because I personally, like, I am drawn to that kind of mid-tempo, like just kind of get things going, and then I love it when it takes off. But sometimes, you just want to get that, fucking rain and blood just hit you in the nuts right off the bat and just goes the entire way. So
Oh yeah.
speaking of wildfires, though, it's down a rabbit hole, as the Misery Point Radio listeners are very familiar with me and my rabbit holes. But when I was a kid, my dad had some property in Chelan, which up in the hills, and that whole side of the mountain like just caught fire one day and just boom, all gone. And so it just, when you were talking about that, it kind of brought me back there for a second, just remembering, man, nature's a motherfucker.
Yeah, we our drummer had to evacuate. He lives a bit up north from here, up in Colbert,
Okay.
and the last big fire we had was burning all of that area, and he got evacuated. Fortunately, nothing lost, nothing damaged, but still a scary time. It's families up there.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. But I do find with artists specifically that, hardships and tragedies and snafus of life often turn into the most personal, epic material. And so, yeah, can't wait to hear that one for sure.
Absolutely.
You mentioned earlier, then, so you were from the East Coast, right? Whereabouts were you on the East Coast?
Well, I'm from Spokane originally, so I'm a Spokane boy, true to heart. But I was on the East Coast I was in the military for a little while, and lived out there for about 10 years. So I ended up in Virginia is where I was. So
Okay.
lots of friends and family out there still. And yeah.
The reason I ask is I'm curious then, how does a band from Washington that's been a band for just a few years end up signing with a record label that's quite well known based on the other side of the country?
Well, honestly, what we're doing has nothing to do with where I came from or anything like that. We our short time as a band, we've made it very, very clear that we are professionals. We have been very like business focused on us. We want to do our business as best as possible, bring in the right people, surround ourselves with the right people, and just play as hard as we can. So every show, even like I've been sick at shows, we've had people who haven't been feeling well or whatever, and we just go as hard as we can and kind of show up and show out for everybody. And with that, I think that has it's kind of made some waves, in the best way possible. So we've been fortunate. Brian actually found us, I think by happenstance, and was started playing our music for a long time, and before we started chatting. So it was really cool to see that Curtain Call got a hold of us and took a shot on us, and that's where we're at now.
So that's very cool then. So they reached out to you and you hadn't been hitting that channel as it were. That just kind of happened, that based off of the level that you guys perform at, that somebody found you and said, I think these guys would be a great fit.
Absolutely, yeah. I definitely, I've had some connections from years past, but what we're doing now is all brand new and all just hard ass work, and that's just one thing that we pride ourselves on.
Yeah. And I know I have some other friends that are in bands that also happen to be signed to Curtain Call, which is really cool. But I was curious, everybody's experience is different. I feel like, well, Brian, for instance, but others as well, these guys promote like hard, like they hit it. I mean, I'm sure your interview circuit's getting kind of busy right now. But yeah, so far, as you guys just got signed back in October, things are moving pretty good for you.
Absolutely. It's been kind of excellent, actually. Brian's been wonderful, of course. John has talked to me a whole bunch about what the future holds, what our direction is, and it lines up with what he visions for us, like his vision for us. He actually, our last conversation about a week ago, he said, I just see you guys on the road all the time playing shows. I was like, that's what we want to do, man. So hell yeah.
Oh, that kind of sucks. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. So you've got this new deal with these guys, which is fantastic. Three awesome singles out and an EP officially in the books and on the way. So tell us about that.
Yeah, we like I said, we have a few songs in our back pocket, and we've had this idea of putting together what we already have, and maybe redoing it, or trying to put it together in a repackaged format. But we think we're just going to leave it be as it is. We have three singles out. We're going to put together an EP with all new songs on it, and like the songs are all pretty much done. Like I said, we've been playing one for a while now, and then two more that are good to go. We're just trying to make sure that we're ready, for all the next steps, and getting to the studio. We kind of plan on hitting a new studio too. Nothing against what we've done previously, but this new opportunity gives us a chance to play live in the booth. So that's pretty rad. So we're just taking next steps that we think suit us, and we're gonna hopefully have our EP out very early next year, so that we can pitch it on the road.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that it's, more or less, when you said done or in the works, is it recording or just the writing phase is done?
The writing phase is pretty much all done. There's a couple things, leads and some, vocal stuff that we're going to change up here and there. But for the most part, writing is done. So the next step is studio.
Okay. So no studio work yet, but it sounds like do you have a place already picked out you're going to go to?
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Oh. Is it too early to announce that?
I don't think there's any problem with it. It's a Hammock Cave Studios. It's a friend of ours who's also a lead singer of a badass band called Day Shadow. Doug, he actually at a show that we were both playing at, he was like, hey bro, you got to come check out my studio. You're going to love it. He showed me pictures, and of course pictures, they don't do anything, for you. Like, oh, it looks like a place you would play music,
Yeah.
And then we took a field trip. Like, hey, we're going to take a rehearsal day, head out to the studio, just see what's up. And it's so damn cool. It's his like studio recording area is an old RF testing room. So it's dead silent in there. It's surreal, man. You walk in there and you're having a conversation with somebody, and you turn to the side and you can no longer hear the conversation. Like, okay, that's sick. You get a little bit anxiety inducing, in the room when he shuts the door. It's like, this is the place to play music. So we're like, we're going to take this on. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sonic deadness. I don't know if that's the right word, but I mean,
yeah.
Have a microphone in front of you, that's great, because then you can just add all this stuff later. But I've been in those rooms, and it is super bizarre to literally take a step and not hear your footsteps.
Yeah.
It's a little surreal, and having somebody standing next to you and like the sound in one ear sounds different than the sound out of the other ear. It's a mind fuck. So that's crazy. So that sounds like, though, it's going to be a good setting for you guys. I'd be pretty pumped about getting into a studio that's pretty well set up. So
absolutely. And like I said, we were able to play it live. That was the thing. He had this whole room so that the kit set up, all the amps are there, and then the vocal booth is right there. So that's kind of where we excel. We're most comfortable playing. That's, sitting on a couch or in a chair and just riffing, like, that's cool and all. But like when we play together, we feed off each other's energy. And like we have some rehearsals that are like, okay, guys, we got to take a break because we are way too heavy and way too loud right now. Just kidding. We never do that.
No such thing.
Like, harder and louder, please. So yeah, we just wanted that energy, and that's what we're all about. So like, this is an opportunity that we have to take.
I feel like the live setting for recordings is almost an ancient memory anymore. And especially, I think, since the advent of the pandemic, and bands putting albums together separately from all corners of the world, technology is great and I love it and I support it and it's awesome and it provides a lot of opportunity and a lot of convenience. I do kind of miss those, when I was doing bands. I mean, we did live studio work, and yeah, you might do 50 freaking takes because some dude fucked up in the middle of the song and you didn't want to punch it in. But I do miss that energy. Even if you can't be exactly in the same space for, like if you're in a booth, but you're facing your guys and you can all see and everything's piped in, it still has that same feel to it. And doing albums and recordings over the internet just doesn't quite give you that feeling.
Absolutely, and that's something that he talked about. Doug, the guy who owns the place, he had recorded previous bands live, like some pretty big name bands, and he was telling us stories about the just the energy, right? And that's kind of the thing. But yeah, you're probably going to mess something up, and if we start head banging, maybe we bash a mic stand or something, and that's all right. But that's punk rock, baby. So
It gets
exactly, yeah.
awesome. It sounds like the studio is going to be a killer place to go. And you did kind of touch on the fact that you are constantly evolving your sound. So can we plan on this next EP that comes out having a sound similar to what you guys have released with the first three singles? Or do you think this is going to be heavier, more intense, and more, violent?
A little bit of both. So we have one song that we've been working on for a while, and it's come together pretty damn well. And it's really heavy. It's supposed to be just a headbanger all the way through. And then we have the World in Flames that I told you about. Yeah. That song is just brutal. And we have another song that it's on the lighter side. So much more on the experimental side of things. So it's not going to be just brutal or anything like that. Brutal topic, sure, but yeah, different style entirely. It's just we're going for something different,
Awesome.
Trying to show off that we're all musicians and we can do cool shit.
Sure. And everybody, kind of needs to grow in their art and cover new ground and, just keep, moving the needle forward. It's really funny. I find probably with metal musicians and metal fans more than any other genre, it's like, it's totally split. Like the purists want you to never, ever, 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 ever do anything differently. Right. And then the folks that really appreciate music for what it is are like, what can these guys do next? And they're okay with having bands, kind of mess with their sound a little bit. I tend to be in the second camp now. 20 years ago, probably in the first camp. So yeah, my horizons have expanded, I think, over the last 5 or 6 years that I've been talking to people as often as I have. So be curious to see what you guys do with your first EP.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we're really excited about it and the opportunities that will arise from it. I think we'll be able to relate to a lot more listeners. That's kind of something important. And that's, one thing about the growth of artists and growth of bands, purists get upset about shit and that's kind of the way it goes. But when a band comes out with a new album that's different stylistically, it appeals to a whole new audience. So yeah, people get pissed off about it. Like, oh, this isn't the same rehash shit you guys did the last 4 albums. Well, it's a whole new thing. And now we have a younger audience or, a heavier audience or whatever it is. It's, and as writers, everybody evolves, right? You don't want to keep writing about the same stuff. Who the hell wants to hear that over and over again?
Well, and you also, you want, excuse me, you want your stuff to be heard. I mean, at the end of the day, musicians play music so people can hear the music. And sure, we could all say, oh, I wrote this for myself, or this was a passion project for me, and I don't care if anybody listens to it. But that's only partially true. We want people to hear our stuff. We want people to see what we're passionate about. So, and then to go along with your debut EP, you and I touched on this earlier, but you have some pretty locked in plans to hit the road, do some tour, and play a lot of shows.
Yeah, we just played a badass show out in Butte, Montana. 2 months now. Yeah, is the Rock the Pit, and the crew there was all amazing. The bands there were all over the board. They had like local, like high school band played, and then they had Deadlow, who they're absolutely brutal, and then a bunch of other bands that we had, we had the fortune of just getting to play with, and we we feel like we did pretty damn well as far as being heavy and doing the thing. And we got hit up by a great guy who wanted to put us on tour with some bands that he's working with, and that's where we're at. So come the end of March, we're going to hit the road for a short Pacific Northwest tour.
Mm.
We're going to go through 2 shows in Oregon, and then we're coming up to Seattle. So you and I are going to hang out,
Fuck yeah, we
and
are.
and then come back to Spokane. And then we're going to head over to Idaho and Montana, and then down to Salt Lake. So it's going to be sick. We're really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think people hitting the road in 2024. I know that my social feeds are blowing up with people that are saying stuff's coming up and promoters hitting me up and saying, "Oh, you got to check this out." So sounds like you guys are all in the same club there. I think that's awesome. So besides the Pacific Northwest, I mean, are there plans to kind of get out a little bit farther? Obviously, I'm a fan of the Northwest music scene, but I'd love to see you guys get out there as well.
Yeah, we're actually we're working with Curtain Call on some festivals, pushing closer to the East Coast, and we're also going to be talking to an agent here today or tomorrow. I forget. My days are all mixed up. About the future as well, because like I said, John with Curtain Call is all about us playing out, and that's what he sees, and we're in line with that. So we're going to be hopefully getting out kind of all over the place in 24.
Yeah, and with some label support, mind you, to help make these things happen, which I think is something that doesn't happen as often as it should. Labels getting their bands out on the circuits, and it's almost a lost art these days. That Curtain Call seems to be kind of bringing that back to the forefront with really hitting that artist promotion pretty hard.
Absolutely. It's one thing that we were I don't want to say hesitant on, but we were very unsure at first until we had actually had some pretty in depth conversations with the team, Brian and John specifically,
Mhm.
and we were worried that we're just going to play shows and then the label's going to say, "Good job, guys. See you next time," or whatever. But these guys are actually passionate about what seems like you're saying like a lost art. They seem to be like an old school approach of like how is this going to be mutually beneficial? Obviously they have to keep the lights on, but so do we. We're not making money as an unsigned band, or as an independent band or a band that only has 3 songs out. Streaming does not help us at all. None of us are, hardcore TikTokers that can make content. That's not our jam. It's especially being old school, which obviously you have to evolve as people and as creators, as we're called nowadays. But there's an old school approach that I think is really beneficial that Curtain Call is trying to do with us and with other bands as well, that they want to support their guys on the road so that everybody can benefit from it.
Yeah.
That's the dream, man.
Well, and I mean, the reality is I've had this conversation a million times at this point, but the record industry is different now. Artists making their money definitely not necessarily from record sales, and record companies not necessarily making their money from artist record sales. There's so many other avenues now that must be, kind of approached and exploited. The merch thing, the tour thing, the festival thing, getting sponsorships and things like that. So the business of music is just so much more complicated. It's not even about money. It's really just about exposure and opportunity, and what's the best way to get your stuff visible. And the visibility portion is I think the most important thing right now. Is how do you get heard, how do you get seen, and
Yeah.
it's really just a challenging situation all around for everybody involved.
Absolutely. And I see it with a lot of bands that we associate with. And, no matter how in depth our partnership is or our, we'll say, friendship is as musicians, but Bands nowadays, it seems that you have to be very very plugged into all of your socials.
Yeah.
That's a big thing, right? And it's not just Facebook anymore. The TikTok thing, the Instagram reels, the everything that you do, you have to be able to create on a constant basis while maintaining a day job and being a family person, and while trying to write music and do other things. It's not like you're going to put out a badass song, no matter how actually amazing it is. Because there are bands who've put out really good music. And I'm like, how the hell do you guys only have like 800 followers? You know what I mean? That's really good music. But that's it. They're not making TikToks. They're not, you know, I don't want to say whoring themselves out, but that's kind of what it is. You know, you have to be a creator, not just a musician. And it's a new world now. It's weird.
You know, I've admittedly struggled with that myself. I mean, I'm creeping up on 50, and you know, the social media for me is not, it's not native to my brain, right? Like I know it's there, I use it, I've got to have it. Admittedly, could probably do more to modernize it. The whole TikTok thing, I still haven't come to terms with it. But you're right, it's not enough anymore to make a post, right? It's got to be a series of posts, or you know, reels, as you said, or short little clips, and just constant. Just so it's so foreign to me, and now I've accepted it, that it's something that, you know, even though I don't play music, but same thing, like I do radio, I do podcasting, I do all of this stuff, and I'm in the same boat as you. I've got to figure out new ways to adapt to things that have changed faster than I can change.
Absolutely. You have to be relevant in the algorithm, you know,
Yeah.
and that's a difficult thing to do, especially when it's a foreign language to all of us.
Oh, the A word algorithm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I struggle with it. So, but it
Yeah.
sounds like, you know, you guys are on a fantastic path. The stuff you already have out for people to listen to is awesome. You've got a great label with a great team behind you, some plans for touring, a new EP coming out. Currently, though, the best place for folks to check out your music is what, your website? Do you have other methods that you'd like to share out with people?
Yeah, I mean, our website, it's new, and we're really proud of it. So that's a great way. But I mean, other than that, it's going to be primarily Facebook. We're working on all the other socials. Instagram lags behind, and that's my fault. I suck with social media. I'm trying, but it's difficult.
We'll get through this together, Kyle.
Yeah, man. So we have, you know, all the guys are all hands on deck with the socials. So like we have a TikTok, and I'm not touching it. I'm admittedly not going to do it. So one of the boys is going to do it, and I think Darren is the one who's been manning that so far. But I'm trying to step away from all that stuff as much as possible. But yeah, every streaming platform. When the EP comes out, we plan on having physical, you know, CDs, which no one has CDs anymore. But we're got to do it. You know, I have an old truck that I still play CDs in, and the guys make fun of me for it. So that's it. You know, just if you Google our name, we're going to come around.
Fate Defined out of Spokane, Washington. Kyle Willis, dude, honored to have you here. Leave us with some final words. What's the best way to support the band, and what can we expect out of you in the next few months here?
Man, go to shows, and that's not even just us. Go support your local scene. Go meet some people, rub elbows with them, tell them they rock. Some bands like it if you tell them they suck. You know, that's cool too. Spread the love, man. That's what it's all about. And no band can be successful without people's support, and that's other musicians too. So yeah, the next few months, man, I don't want to do the big things coming. You know, I'm not that guy, but just stay tuned, and we're gonna be kicking ass. That's the goal.
I believe it. Stay tuned. Fate Defined on KFMP, Misery Point Radio. We'll talk to you guys out there in the wasteland again real soon. Kyle, thanks again, brother. You and I, this is not the last time that we're going to talk, so I'll see you out there on the road.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mike.